I think I may have found the worst Yuumi player in existence, and I don't say that because of how bad they actually are at the champion itself. It's because of the way that they're playing the game and how they're blatantly trolling games, griefing games, and yet denying it at the same time. So much to the point that they're taking to Twitter to try to deny some accusations. We are taking a look at someone by the name of Halfway Crook here. Not all too familiar with this person, but it's a master caliber player who plays a lot of Yuumi, plays a lot of Maokai. But the reason that this was brought to my attention is because Halfway Crook was recently reported by Lux, a League of Legends partner. This is Lux for you guys who aren't familiar. She is a high elo master, Seraphine, bot lane player, YouTuber, content creator, all that kind of stuff. And this was brought to my attention because he was reported he wanted to defend himself. We're going to be taking a look into this a little bit to see how guilty he actually is here. So this is a game from a few weeks ago that prompted Lux to manually report him to the LPP with an ultimatum that this griefing Yuumi must be banned at all costs. Let's inspect whether I was griefing this game. Now, I do know who Lux is. I've played with Lux in the past, but I don't want to put any bias into this. So before I came to my ultimate decision that this guy is griefing games, I did try to do some investigative work to really break things down and see, okay, who is in the wrong here? And let me just go on and say that this guy does a terrible job of defending himself, and the evidence is pretty easy to find. You don't have to dig too deep into it. But let's see what he has to say. Going down here, let's go ahead and see. He follows it up by saying his top laner, who exclusively plays AD champions other than Mordekaiser, decides that this game he's going to play Fleet, Footwork, Mordekaiser when AP mid and bot have already been locked in, and 95% of their support roster is AP. Now this to me just kind of seems like a hindsight excuse. He's just trying to make up any excuses he possibly can for the inevitable griefing that we're going to go on and see. In reality, in Champion Select these days, you can't see who's on your team. So again, he could do some research after the fact and see that this guy might play a lot of AD champions, but this all means nothing. You have no impact on what your top laner is picking. This is just an excuse for his support pick and in his playstyle this game. He goes on to say that the two traditional AD supports are banned. He always bans Senna, and Pyke is picked on the other team. This is all just an excuse trying to make sense of why he picked Yuumi this game. If we go back up and look at this team comp, I mean, I will say this much on his behalf. Being paired up as a support with a non-traditional bot laner can be a little weird. It can throw things off a little bit, but it's not the craziest thing in the world. You see mages thrown in the bot lane pretty often these days, including Seraphine, who even in pro play is played a lot as that bot lane position. And what I have to say is I've struggled in the past, but what I've come to the conclusion of is if you have a Seraphine on your team, you don't match, or any mage for that matter, you don't match a mage with an enchanter. It just doesn't make sense. Enchanters work well with ADCs. If you have a mage, just play some like kind of tank, some kind of CC bot. You're probably not going to win lane, but you're just going to scale. You're going to play safe. You're going to get tanky, and then you could provide that front line for your team in the later stages of the game. So that is one thing I have to add on to this champion pick here as far as the Yuumi goes. I think a tank just makes more sense for the Seraphine combo, but also if you look at the team composition as a whole, Mordekaiser, Bel'Veth, Syndra, Seraphine, Yuumi, there's no frontline on that team. So picking a tank also just makes sense there. He's also kind of going into the fact that his team desperately needs AD because there's no way in hell that Bel'Veth can possibly be the only AD champion on that team. And to that, I say, we're talking about low master North American solo queue at the end of the day. And this is my elo, so I'm not putting down others. I'm putting down myself as well when I say this, but we are not the most talented bunch of players in the world. This is not pro play. This is not the top of the challenger leaderboard in Korea or anything like that. This is like mediocre play, if I'm being honest. So I don't think your champion pick is all that important, and I might get flamed for saying that. It is important to a certain extent, but it's not like a deal breaker. It's not like, oh my god, I have to pick this champion or we insta lose the game because Bel'Veth can't be the only AD champion on our game. Anyways, he's just making excuses here. So far, as far as taking to Twitter to back up his gameplay, not making a whole lot of sense. So far, excuses, don't really like what I'm seeing so far. He then follows that up by saying, can someone kindly explain to me what I pick here? Tags LS. We are 4 AP into triple bruiser topside before the item rework, blah, blah, blah. No matter what tank, support, or enchanter I play. Again, enchanters don't really work here. tanks work perfectly. Bel'Veth must 1v9 the game, and it's the only win con. Again, it's not that serious. It's low Masters North American solo queue. It's not really that big of a deal that Bel'Veth is solo AD. Just pick a tank or something that's going to be useful for your team no matter what. He goes on to kind of back up more of the reasoning behind the Yuumi pick. The best angle that he could see is he plays Yuumi, who has excellent synergy with Bel'Veth. I sit on her, and this is where he loses me. From minute 000 for stacks, I know this is a feasible strategy because we have a weak side bot laner. I wouldn't do this if I had a marksman. Now, if you guys aren't too familiar with the changes that happened to Yuumi previously in this season, Yuumi can no longer attach on other people. They have dumbed down the champion so much to the point that you have to attach to your bot laner. That's the person that you're spending all of your time with. That's the person that you are stronger with. Both you and the person that you're attached to, you gain like this friendship that makes it so that you are only really, really impactful if you're with that individual person. In the past, there was some strategies where maybe you attach to your ADC to start the game and then maybe go on your jungler, but starting the game on your jungler was never viable in the past, and even after the changes, it is even less viable. You must play the game around your ADC, even if it's the non-traditional ADC. This is a feasible strategy. We'll go into that a little bit. He's saying that it's worked for him in the past, but I have some games that we can go look at that might say otherwise. He goes on to explain a little bit of what happened during the game, how he was able to team up with his jungler, go top, poke out the top laner, stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. And it kind of sounds good when he phrases it this way because, of course, if you're a Yuumi attached to a jungler ganking top lane, that's a 3v1, I would imagine things are probably going pretty well, but he pretty much ignores the fact that his Seraphine is sitting bot lane by herself this entire game. Two things that I want to mention when it comes to that specifically, one of which he says, oh, it's a fine, strategy because Seraphine can play weak side anyways. Let's take a second to talk about what weak side is. Weak side just means you're probably not getting all that much attention. Your jungler is going to be focusing elsewhere. Your team might be focusing elsewhere. So you might get some help from time to time, but for the most part, attention's going to be going elsewhere. That's what weak side is. What he's doing in this game by completely sacrificing bot lane is sabotage. That is not weak side bot lane. That is just giving up, sabotaging your ADC to play alone. Another point that I want to make here is let's look at the matchup specifically. Tristana Pyke sounds like a nightmare for any matchup, regardless of what it is. Even if it's Seraphine with Yuumi attached, it's still going to be a nightmare, but now Seraphine has to go up against Pyke and Tristana by herself. Yeah, I feel pretty bad. I wouldn't want to be in that situation either. So I think we've seen enough of what Halfway Crook had to say about the situation. Let's see what some other people had to say when they chimed in. We could take a look at what I Keep It Taco says here, a pretty credible high elo Jhin player who, from my personal experience, has always been a pretty positive, uplifting, educational, chill kind of guy. I've never really seen him go off on anybody quite like this, so it's got to be pretty deserving, if I do say so myself. You can kind of read through this yourself, but he goes on to say, I've ran into you 3 times in the past 3 years. Whenever you're tilted coming to Champion Select, you literally soft int. If you're not tilted yourself, this is all just he said, she said kind of stuff, though. There's no evidence or anything to really back this up. At least we didn't think that there was, right? It's just a click away, though, I promise you. Let's just go ahead and see what this guy's match history looks like. Maokai and Yuumi being played pretty frequently. Looks like he never takes flash on Yuumi, which is common, but also consistently running heal ignites on Maokai. A bit int, but that's okay. Nothing too strange that we're seeing until we get to, what's this? Maybe some Disco Nunu, Cleanse Ghost mid Nunu, probably forcing a remake or a dodge or something along those lines. Anything else suspicious that we see down here? We have another example here of him forcing a remake when he locks in Cleanse Smite Yuumi. So overall, doesn't look to be the best kind of summoner to have on the Rift. Looks like he's trolling his teammates pretty frequently, and that's just taking a look at the summoner spells. We're not even able to look at the gameplay to see how he's just abandoning bot lane from minute 0, as he even claimed himself. And I think it even goes beyond just that one game situation, because Lux finally chimed in on the situation and said this person is legitimately defending sitting on jungler as Yuumi for 10 plus games that I could find recently from level 1 onward. Good strat, bro. Enemy support is level 6 and you're level 2, but at least you got bestie stacks. You surely didn't lose every single game. So this is more than just a one-game situation. Looks like in games that he's not able to force a remake by picking something really troll, he's trolling the game in other ways. Honestly, I think this guy's probably just a little delusional. The way he's describing the situation, it sounds like he really does think he's in the right. So I don't even know if this is like necessarily intentionally inting or griefing games. He's just doing so and he doesn't even realize it. This is just my message to everybody out there, though. Don't play Yuumi like this. This is the worst kind of Yuumi player in the world. If you're going to pick Yuumi, especially after the rework, the way that the champion is designed now, just attach to your ADC. If things go poorly, it is what it is, but you can't just find a jungler from minute 0 and attach to them and hope that that's going to be your lane partner for the rest of the game. You get the ADC that you get the support that you get, and you just got to make it work. Not every game's going to be winnable, but you got to make do with the situation that you find yourself in. Don't be like this person. Be better. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.